Safe, unsafe. Very safe, completely unsafe. Extremely insanely safe. X Games unsafe. Who's there? What do you want?
It's me, Arnold. Don Trump, I need to ask you a favor. I need you to stop using my quotes and my movie titles in your speeches. When you talk to the public, it gives them the wrong idea that somehow I support you.
I can do whatever I want. I am, after all, Commander-in-Chief.
Ah, that's what I mean right there. You can't just blatantly rip people off. That is a movie that I was in, not you, me.
I can do as I wish, as I totally recall.
See what I mean? That was a great movie I did with Jamie Lee Curtis and James Cameron, and neither one of those two support you, and now you're using that. You can't keep on doing this.
That's
it's exactly
media true lie right there.
That's what I mean. You can't say that.
I don't know. Whatever became of us, Arnold? We used to be like brothers, like twins.
That's the last straw. I can't take it anymore. There's something wrong with you. You must have something in your brain.
It's not a tumor.
Ah, that's it. That's it. That's from Kindergarten Cop. You can't steal that.
You know what? You're fired.
You can't fire me. I don't work for you anymore. I quit.
I want you to get Pence on the line right away, Mike Pence. We're going to send him down to Mar-a-Lago, and we're going to put a stop to this Arnold business. Tell him to run. Go. Get to the chopper.
I heard that. Knock it off now, or I'll be back.
Get him out.
That feud between Donald Trump and Arnold Schwarzenegger just won't go away, will it? Hello, my friends. Welcome to another edition of Jimmy at the Crossroads. I'm Jimmy Sengenberger, coming to you in partnership with the Washington Examiner. And today we've got a couple of fascinating discussions that I had at the leadership program of the Rockies Retreat, in-person interviews with Guatemalan radio host and libertarian Gloria Alvarez. Plus, in person for the first time ever on this program, we've interviewed him a number of times. Gordon G. Chang, Gatestone Institute Senior Fellow, and of course the author of several books on China and North Korea, joined me to talk about what's happening with China and U.S. policy vis-a-vis China. We're going to share those interviews and more coming up today on Jimmy at the Crossroads, which is getting started right now.
Gonna talk money, gonna talk politics, great for all generations. Oh, what a great mix, I said. Gonna talk money, gonna talk politics, great for all generations. Oh, what a great mix. I got Jimmy at the Crossroads, making sense out of nonsense. Come on, Jimmy, what you got?
And ladies and gentlemen, let's get you to Mr. Sang Style himself, Jimmy Sengenberger.
Thank you, Nathan Matoush, working the Matoush magic once again as we come back here on a Monday for another edition of Jimmy at the Crossroads, coming to you in partnership with the Washington Examiner. I am Jimmy Sengenberger, and it is such a pleasure and a privilege to be with you again, as always. If you have not done so yet, please do subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Jimmy at the Crossroads. Also, follow our friends at the Washington Examiner at washingtonexaminer.com. I should have a new op-ed in the Examiner tomorrow, so be sure to watch out for that. In addition, we had a little bit of a snag in terms of the podcast launch, but we are going to this week be putting out the Jimmy at the Crossroads standalone podcast featuring interviews with Guy Benson and Dr. James Lindsay. You do not want to miss that. Subscribe on all the major podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Get that done, please, if you haven't done so already. So, as I said in the lead-up intro here today, I am very pleased to have the opportunity to have had the opportunity to talk with two very special guests at the LPR Retreat, Leadership Program of the Rockies 2021 Retreat. Gordon G. Chang, good friend of this show, Gatestone Institute, senior fellow, and also Gordon Chang is an author, noted China critic, has written a number of books about China and North Korea. I caught up with him at this leadership program of the Rockies Retreat 2 Fridays ago, June 4th. I'm finally excited to share with you that interview. Plus, Gloria Alvarez, she's absolutely fantastic. She's a radio host in Guatemala. She's a libertarian. She's speaking out on all number of issues of liberty and freedom. We're going to get to that interview coming up today in just a bit as well. Also from the LPR Leadership Program of the Rockies 2021 Retreat. But first, I want to go to the man behind the other side of the computer or the show or whatever you want to call it. We've got our producer extraordinaire working the Matoush magic, Mr. Nathan Matoush. Hello, sir. How are you, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing good, Jimmy. How you doing?
You know, not too shabby. Been pretty busy of late. Things have been kind of crazy, but, you know, we're here. We're ready to talk. I've got some great interviews to share, and I'm excited.
I'm excited too. It's an honor to be back. I've been gone for a month. It's good to feel the Matoush magic back in the air, especially here at Jimmy at the Crossroads.
I know. Unfortunately, it's not going to be too much longer because you have a venture that you are about to go on. And I wanted to take a moment, give everybody the chance to hear for a minute or two about the mission that you're about to embark on. Feel free to take a moment, and then we'll also give people some information on how they can connect if they want to support you.
Yeah, you bet, Jimmy. So as you know, and as I've been telling some other people, I'm becoming a focus missionary. And if people haven't heard of that, it stands for the Fellowship of Catholic University Students. So my main target as a missionary is going to be college students, usually in their late teens, early 20 years. That's the main demographic that I'm going to be working with. And I actually got back from training. I was up in Bismarck, North Dakota for a bit and training to become a focus missionary. We did masses every day, daily masses, had an opportunity to do a silent retreat, and just hear the voice of my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. It was phenomenal. I loved every moment of it. And, just meeting like friends that like you literally meet like one day and you're all of a sudden just best friends. God takes care of his people. And I think that's what was great about it. But I got placed at a college campus. So I'm going to be at Fort Hays State out in Hays, Kansas. So I'm pumped. I'm looking forward to it. I got my team and everything. And like as I was saying, Jimmy, there is a crisis in the church. Definitely. And there's not a lot of young people in the Catholic Church today. And I mean, the statistics right here, I think this says it all, 78% of Catholics leave the Catholic faith by the age of 24. And I mean, I think a lot of it is, kind of the college life, the party life, the atmosphere, and stuff like that. And so my goal is to, really touch these students' hearts. And, Jesus is going to speak through me. I'm going to be doing different Bible studies and, different activities, leading discipleships and all sorts of stuff just to create that fellowship. And I think it kind of ties into my story as well. I went to college and, I kind of just went to school, went home. I didn't really connect with a lot of people in college, and I wish I did. I wish I would have had, something like Focus with fellowship and, brotherhood and that Bible study. So definitely, I think that's a whole reason why I'm doing this. And I'm just looking forward to it. Like I can't wait.
Well, I'm proud of you for taking on this mission, and it's always a challenge when you are trying to evangelize, but it is a challenge that you are clearly suited for and called to do. How can folks support you? Is there a way that they can help you out with this mission?
I think mainly I want to get people sit down people individually and just have a conversation just more about my mission. I'd say the best way is, phone number or email to start. And then from there, I could send people my support page as well and see if they'd be interested and being part of my mission support team. So yeah, I'd say my phone number and my email is the best way
I'm
to
going
do
to
that.
suggest, since that information isn't publicly accessible, if anybody is interested in helping learn or just learning more about what Mr. Matoush is doing, going to be working in the Matoush Magic for the Lord coming up soon, please log on to jimmyatthecrossroads.com. That's jimmyatthecrossroads.com, our website for the show. You can go to the contact page and shoot me an email, and I will get you in touch with Nathan. Or Nathan, you can also share your email address if you want to do that. Don't want to give your phone on the air.
Yeah. Email address. You can reach me at here. I'll put up my lower third here, so we can have that at least to go off of. You can follow me on Twitter as well at Matoush Magic. But email address is going to be nathan.matoush@focus.org. So nathan.matoush@focus.org. The best way to reach me, and then from there. I'd love to. I'd love to just share my story. That's just kind of what this is about. My testimony. How Jesus came into my life and how He changed mine. I want to transfer that to other people. College students and people that support me. So.
Well, I wish you the best of luck. God bless you for this, and we will talk again about this before you head off on your mission.
Yeah, Jimmy. I'm honored to talk about it, especially on this show. Man, we've had a great ride, and I'm looking forward to my new mission here with Christ. But always gonna remember the Matoush Magic at the Crossroads, my friend.
Oh, you are always welcome back to work the Matoush Magic. Nathan Matoush, everybody, producer extraordinaire here on Jimmy at the Crossroads. Why don't I give Nathan a moment to share what he's up to, because this is a brand new mission, and it truly is a mission and a calling. And he's been here for us off and on over the past year and a half here on Jimmy at the Crossroads, almost a year and a half, not quite, and always is just he's got such a great heart, and he is a very he knows what his values and his principles are, and it's always been a course best charted by himself because he's following those callings and values and principles. All right, we're going to take a break here on Jimmy at the Crossroads. You know how we like to have a little fun with our breaks, too, on the program. And when we come back, my interviews, first with Gloria Alvarez at the leadership program of the Rockies Retreat, and then with Gordon G. Chang, also at the leadership program of the Rockies Retreat. We'll be right back. It's Jimmy at the Crossroads. I'm Jimmy Sengenberger, coming to you in partnership with the Washington Examiner.
Hey, this is Frankie.
Hey, and I'm Angelo. We're the owners of F&A Pizzeria. If you're looking for the best pizza in town, remember us, F&A.
Hey, we got the best crust.
F&A.
We got the best cheese.
F&A.
We got the best sauce.
F&A, man.
Put it all together, what do you got?
F&A.
Yeah, you got that right. F&A.
F&A Pizza on the corner of Hell Yeah Avenue and Dan Straight Street.
Concerned about that trade deficit? Looking for that magic solution? I'm Bill of Goods for ScamWow, the tariff towel. It's like a tax. It's like a fee. It's like a penalty. This tariff really sucks up the trade deficit. And the jobs we'll save are tremendous. This is for the House, the Senate, the POTUS. You'll be saying crap every time you use the ScamWow tariff towel. Look at this. It just does the work. Why wouldn't you want to pay twice the price for that washing machine? How much would you pay for this tariff? It'll make this microwave seem like it's brand new. And at only twice the price. Look at the way the tariff towel cleans your clock. Wow, look at that. So clean, you can see the future. You can see future tariffs coming from a mile away. Look at the way it polishes these stars. Boy, if that don't make you feel patriotic, huh?
I love paying extra. I don't even worry about it anymore, since the trade deficit will go down.
Look at this tariff. I love this tariff. It's like a security blanket.
All I can say is, scam, wow!
ScamWow compels other nations to use their own tariff towels on our stuff, making our goods more expensive overseas. Whoopee.
The micro tariff is for everything, for lumber, for steel, even solar panels. It'll melt that trade deficit down. I don't know. It sells itself, America. The ScamWow sells for 25%. But if you call in the next 20 minutes, because we can't do this all term, we'll give you the second tariff absolutely free. That's 4 tariffs for 25%. And it comes with a 5-year warranty. Here's how to order.
Call 1-800-RIP-YOU-OFF. ScamWow is not available in capitalism and is made in Washington. Beware of ScamWow grift. 1-800-RIP-YOU-OFF. Call now.
I got Jimmy at the crossroads, making sense out of nonsense. Come on, Jimmy, what you got?
Welcome back, Jimmy at the Crossroads. Jimmy Sengenberger here with you in partnership with the Washington Examiner, and we are at the leadership program of the Rockies 2021 retreat here at the Broadmoor Hotel in Colorado Springs. And today is about saving freedom 1776, and this is a battle that's going on across the United States and, of course, around the globe. And I am so pleased to be joined here today by someone who knows all about the fight for liberty in Latin America. Gloria Alvarez joins us today here on Jimmy at the Crossroads. And I'm going to just ask her to tell us a little bit about herself. But first, welcome to the show. It's good to have you. Bienvenidos.
Thank you, Jimmy. Muchas gracias. It's a pleasure to be here with your audience.
So fantastic to have you. I just want to go to the beginning because we have a similar track of having started radio as teenagers. Now, me, it was college radio. You were doing music radio. Tell us about yourself.
Oh, well, I was doing college in a libertarian university that I didn't choose because of libertarian ideas. It just happened to be the only university in Guatemala offering international affairs. And I fell in love with the curriculum. I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but I was like, if I study what I really like, something will happen. And then on the second year of college, sophomore that you call, I had some friends in a band, and the father of one of them was bringing a new music radio to Guatemala. But he didn't want like the typical broadcaster. He wanted people with different contents. So he was looking for people studying psychology, medicine, stuff like that, and they offered me the job. And it was perfect because I could study and then, 3 hours on air. And without me knowing it, that was wiring my brain into a way where I could explain very complicated ideas in simple examples, right? And then when I graduated, I went abroad through scholarships, studying international development. I had the fantasy of getting inside the World Bank or the IMF or the UN and explain to them that it was trade, not aid, what really helps. Of course, in that road, I understood, no, they are not interested in hearing that because it's an industry perpetuating poverty, right? Like the whole thing of aid is not getting people out of poverty so they can stay there. So I went back to Guatemala. I was super frustrated. I studied all of these things, political science, international development, master's degree, and I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to go into a political party. I didn't want to get involved in an NGO. I thought of all of it as something that was just perpetuating underdevelopment. So I went back to the radio. And this time, my boss, this was another music station, way more prestigious than the one that I started with. He said to me, you have all this, knowledge. I want that on air. And I said to him, well, that's going to create trouble, because I'm a libertarian and people don't like free markets and free individuals. And he said, I don't care. So what I started doing in the show was explaining to young people what I knew best, and that was getting scholarships online. And I said to them, well, listen, the government is just not interested in educating you. It's just not, because, the dumber you are, the cheaper your vote. So if you want to get out of that trap, you can use the internet and put your education in your own hands. And I have scholarships here. So I would go online and see, advertisement scholarship in Madrid, or Singapore offering a tech scholarship to do some masters or whatever. And then my show just skyrocketed in ratings. And it was amazing because while my colleagues were talking about, I don't know, Hollywood gossip in that moment, like the Kardashians or what was going on with Lindsay Lohan and Britney Spears, I was offering alternatives, and that opened the space until the point that through that music station, I interviewed political candidates in Guatemala. We started doing activism, so it was pretty cool.
So when you were on the radio specifically trying to take a music show and make it more about issues of the day that impact people's real lives, what was it that you really tried to use in terms of strategies to personalize it and make it relatable to people for a music station so that they weren't turning away while they were maybe wanting to go for music and hear a little bit about gossip?
Right, so first of all, understanding who's your audience. My audience was high school kids and college kids. That what I understand now is that people are not going to bet for freedom if they are too afraid to be free. And what we have in Latin America is psychological damages in self-esteem. People are taught since they're kids that they're victims of the United States, victims of the Spanish conquistador, victims of the oligarchies, victims in a way that it doesn't matter how much they work hard, they won't get up in the ladder of progress. So if you have people with a damaged self-esteem, it doesn't matter how much you talk about free market economics, they're just gonna be like, I don't want this.
Right.
So I went back to another level, and that's emotional intelligence and psychology. And I would be going to topics, like for example, the way that I would sell the fountainhead of Ayn Rand to them. I was like, guys, do you wanna study something that your parents would kill you if you study? Like maybe you wanna be an astronaut or a chef, but your parents want you to be a doctor or a lawyer, which is like the very, conservative way of thinking about school. And I would say like, well, I have this fantastic book, and it was about this architect who get bullied because he wanted to make these amazing modern buildings. So if you want good arguments in order to stand up for yourself, I have this amazing book called The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. I wouldn't mention the buzzwords like private property, capitalism, all those things that people would be like, hell no. Like I would sell the product from another angle. And it was very efficient. Actually, because of that work, then I started getting other job offers. I worked in a bank as a social media manager. I worked for a cell phone company. And that's how I started understanding that technology is doing in Latin America what the governments will never do, educating and empowering people.
So one thing that is a big struggle for conservatives, libertarians here in the United States today is exactly what you were talking about in terms of personalization and making it relatable in a way that can get them thinking, okay, this has an impact on my life, but also the language aspect that you're underscoring, not saying things that can instantly turn somebody off because there's certain terminology that's being used. What advice would you give to American media folks like myself or to elected officials or candidates who are trying to shrink the size and scope of government, focus on individual liberty and free markets, to do that in an effective way and bring in this next generation of Generation Z or our generation of millennials into the fold?
Well, there are various strategies that involve thinking outside the box and not making the battle in the stage that they put for you, but make your own stage. So I'll give you 3 examples. With feminism, for example, right? Original feminists were actually very libertarian in the sense that they didn't want privileges from the government or subsidies. They just wanted to have the right to work, to acquire private property, to open a bank account, like to be treated equally, right? And now feminists are like, oh, the patriarchy is horrible, but they want to submit women to the most inefficient and corrupt daddy of them all, which is daddy government. So when you say just that, it's like you can see the shock in their heads. The other thing with racism, what has been very efficient for me to use is DNA tests. I actually did my own DNA test, and it turns out that I have Native American, African, Scandinavian. And when I'm seeing all these divisions of race, I say, listen, if everybody would get their DNA, they would all see that we're all genetic blenders. It's stupid to be judging and dividing us by the color of our skin, which doesn't even represent what's going on in our genetic ladder, right? So when you introduce things like that, it's like, what? Like no one expects that. And I think that conservatives and libertarians sometimes are afraid to think outside the box and come out with strategies that are maybe too exaggerated, but they are very efficient. The other thing I was talking yesterday when I was coming in, and this is a third example that I give you, is the hypocrisy, right? The hypocrisy of Latin Americans and also Californians. Let me put you in parallel, right? Latin Americans and Californians have consistently voted for socialist strategies, right? Let's embrace the poor, let's get free stuff, let's embrace the homeless, because we care and we have this solidarity. Great, perfect. Turns out that when you invest in these policies, misery, scarcity, hyperinflation, poverty starts arising. What do Latin Americans do? They migrate to the United States. What are Californians doing? Going to Texas and going to Colorado.
Colorado, I was just going to say that, absolutely.
So the thing is, if you're moving, don't bring the disgrace with you. Otherwise, stay there and live according to the socialist policies that you chose. But the hypocrisy is, they choose this, they create a disaster, then they move to freer parts of the world, and they pretend to establish the same thing. And it's like, no. And if that's going to be the case, then let's divide.
I sort of compare that idea that you're expressing to like a plague of locusts that goes to one place, eats everything up there, and then moves on to the next one, and doesn't recognize that what they're doing is creating the exact same problems that they were dealing with before. And so something that always comes to my mind when we're discussing how to express ideas of liberty is also through stories. And talking about how people experience certain things. I mean, you've got Hungarian background and Cuban because between the two of your parents. And so finally, as we wrap up here, what can you tell us about storytelling and the power of that?
It's super powerful. In fact, I quote in some of my conferences Tyrion Lannister from Game of Thrones and the power of stories, and I use Star Wars and I use Matrix, and in my
love
books,
the Star Wars. I do that too.
Yeah, like I try to use everything that art has to offer to teach lessons about freedom, especially to a generation that doesn't like to read. Maybe not everybody's gonna read Human Action by Ludwig von Mises or Atlas Shrugged because they're like thousands of pages, but there are stories, and this is the thing. Neuroscience is teaching us that if an idea, it's not backed with an emotion, the idea doesn't stick. And that is what the left does very efficiently. They talk about emotions regardless of the data. And if you only stick to the data, I wish it would be as easy as showing a picture of Korea. And you know, there's electricity in South Korea, there's none in North Korea. You see, it doesn't work. I wish it would be that easy. But you have to attach emotions to the data.
So well, it's been said, facts don't care about your feelings. Somebody says that.
Yeah.
Feelings don't care about your facts. You got to bring the two things together.
Exactly.
Gloria Alvarez, we're out of time, but thank you so much.
No,
Let's keep in touch. This was such a treat.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Once again, Gloria Alvarez joining us here on Jimmy at the Crossroads, and such fantastic insights. We're here at the leadership program of the Rockies Retreat in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and we'll be back with more here on Jimmy at the Crossroads in a moment.
Breaking at this hour, Jimmy Sengenberger is currently at the crossroads of politics and economics.
Are you all right with being a shark maverick? Was it okay to team up with you?
I'm good, man. It's a partnership. We're like this, Jimmy. I got you.
I got Jimmy at the crossroads, making sense out of nonsense.
Okay, welcome to the auditions for the official voice of Jimmy at the Crossroads. Name, please?
Kermit the Frog.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi-oh, Jimmy the show host here.
Next.
Next. I told you they wouldn't go for it, Froggy. Hiya!
And you are?
Stewie Griffin.
Can you sing a bumper song?
Oh, absolutely. La 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 la, la 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 la. This is so beneath me.
Thank you. Okay, next, previous experience in voice work.
I was a duck.
Next.
Affleck.
Okay, Dr. Evil, you're up.
Okay, everyone. Welcome to Jimmy at the frickin' Crossroads. We invite you to watch for $1 billion.
Mr. Simpson.
Wait.
Mr. Simpson.
Who's talking?
Mr. Simpson!
What?
Over here!
Oh, hey.
Let's hear the announcer voice.
I can't do an announcer voice. Oh, but I can do Mr. Burns. Announcer guy, eh? Excellent.
George W. Bush.
I'm here to auditionify for the announcerification process there for Jimmy Mushroomburger.
It's Sengenberger.
Jimmy In-N-Out Burger.
Next. And you are?
The name is Doc Brown.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Welcome back to the Crossroads.
I love your enthusiasm. When can you start?
Last year.
I got Jimmy at the crossroads, making sense out of nonsense. Come on, Jimmy, what you got?
We're back here on Jimmy at the Crossroads, coming in partnership with the Washington Examiner. I am Jimmy Sengenberger here at the Leadership Program of the Rockies Retreat, Friday, June 4th, at the Broadmoor Hotel at Colorado Springs, Colorado. It is a beautiful, beautiful place for the Leadership Program of the Rockies Retreat, Saving Freedom 1776. And let's be clear that freedom is under assault all across the globe. As we're recording this, it is the 32nd anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre. And yet, as has been tradition, Hong Kong today is not holding a vigil. Isn't that sad? Who better to talk about this and other related topics relative to China, Wuhan, we'll see where we go, than our good friend of the show, Gordon G. Chang. Gordon, welcome back, and it is good to interview you in person for a change.
This is great. This is absolutely great.
I met you here at this Broadmoor Hotel at a 2017 conference, and we haven't seen each other since, except on camera when we've done Crossroads interviews and on the radio, so it is really a treat.
Well, it's a great treat for me.
And I wasn't able to catch your speech because you just spoke, but I got some good feedback from a couple of folks. What's the tenor of the talk that you gave?
Yeah, I talked about China's subversion of the United States through disease, through actual incitement of violence, through fentanyl. And I talked about how China declared the U.S. to be its enemy. They did that in May 2019. People's Daily, the most authoritative publication in China, declared a quote-unquote people's war on the U.S. And we have a president who won't even say that they're an adversary. He just says they're a competitor. What I talked about was the existential nature of China's challenge, that Beijing believes it has the right to rule the world. And indeed, I had talked about Chinese officials saying that they should rule the near parts of the solar system, which sounds ludicrous, but no, I'm not exaggerating.
So the 32nd anniversary of the horrific Tiananmen Square massacre, they're not having a vigil in Hong Kong. Talk to me your sense about that and what's been happening in Hong Kong and the world's reaction, or really lack thereof, certainly not in any substantial or credible way, to what's been happening.
Yeah. Every year up until last year, there's been a candlelight vigil, mostly in Victoria Park, which is in Causeway Bay, where tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of people gather in dusk to commemorate the slaughter in Tiananmen Square. This year was not permitted. And people who actually tried to memorialize the Tiananmen massacre were subject to a 5-year jail sentence for a violation of the new national security law. So Beijing has tried its best. Now, it swooped down and it actually arrested a democracy organizer for nothing more than speech, and it arrested about 6 or 7 other people. There was a minor scuffle in a place called Mongkok, but people on their own left candles on the street, and that's an act of defiance.
That is, and that's a powerful one. When you're told you can't have a candlelight vigil and get together, yet you find a way to do it. And that isn't that the nature of how freedom fighters have been advocating for themselves and their rights in China since the Communist Revolution, and on now to what we're seeing in Hong Kong, where they are being subjugated, and in just the arrests and everything is just so horrific.
Well, I ended my talk today by commemorating Tiananmen, and Lydia, my wife, brought up a candle which we held up. And people in the audience actually held up their cell phones with their flashlight on, as just it was so emotional for me.
In terms of the world's reaction and response, especially world leaders to Hong Kong and the travesty there of Beijing swooping in and subjugating that city, what do you make of it? Because it seemed, and we talked about this last year when it happened, that they were really using the cover of COVID to take this step, and then the world was focused elsewhere. And we haven't seen, certainly not sufficient pushback, but not very much.
Yeah. The Hong Kong government, which is basically acting at the behest of Beijing, has banned all protests. Although, and this is COVID, they say, but when they have a pro-government demonstration or meeting, they violate their own quote-unquote safety protocols. Yeah, the world hasn't done much, and President Biden, when he ran, said he was going to be the human rights president. Well, now he has a chance to show it, because Beijing is watching. Because if China feels it can get away with absorbing Hong Kong as it has, then it's going to move on other areas. And we know that Beijing believes that it is a right and indeed the obligation to rule the world. Xi Jinping has criticized the existing Westphalian international order. He wants to impose China's imperial system, where Chinese emperors believe they had the mandate of heaven over what they called Tianxia, or all under heaven. And Xi Jinping has been making Tianxia references in his recent pronouncements, and recently they've become very explicit. And Chinese officials have been talking about this. So we know it's not just Hong Kong.
How about, you mentioned the Biden administration and things that they're unwilling to say. What's your assessment so far now, 6-ish months into the presidency?
They have yet to settle their China policy, so we really don't know where they're going. I mean, they've done some good things. They've done some really atrocious things. So the one thing that sticks out in my mind is that within hours of taking office, President Biden suspended President Trump's May 1st, 2020 executive order, which prohibited grid operators and utilities from buying equipment from China. Obviously, the reason was sabotage. I got really upset when Biden started talking in public about the Colonial Pipeline hack and saying, oh, we're going to protect our grid. Well, he left our grid vulnerable to Chinese sabotage for no reason. He didn't get anything from China in return, and now our grid is open. Those are the types of things that Biden has done, which to me are indefensible.
At the same time, when we look at COVID-19 and the fact that it originated in Wuhan, now there's a lot more interest from even the Biden administration that had not been in place for Democrats, the media, for Biden under President Trump, and even until just in the last month or so, about Wuhan Institute of Virology potentially being the original source where, through gain-of-function research, it was created in a lab. That's the hypothesis. I've been talking about this hypothesis for well over a year now. I've been thinking it was quite likely that that was the case. Not saying that it was intentional, but at the very least generated in a lab through experiments. What do you make of the sudden credibility that now we're seeing for this?
Well, President Trump isn't around, so, when President Trump talked about a lab leak, and so everyone else said, no, can't be a lab leak. So it was sort of like the orange man bad phenomena. But I think what's happened is we know that Biden is not really interested in finding out the origins of COVID-19. He had a 2-hour phone call with Xi Jinping in February, and by Biden's own admission, he didn't raise the subject of the disease, which is, today has now killed 597,000 Americans. What happened, and I talked about this today, but what happened last Wednesday was really instructive. Last Wednesday, CNN, early in the morning, issues this story about how the State Department spiked an investigation into COVID-19. And there was an outrage. And then Biden, later on in the day, had to issue his executive order to the intelligence community to look at the origins of COVID-19, report back in 90 days. Biden didn't want to do that. But what's happened is that there is now so much anger. There's so much political pressure. I guess that when Biden woke up last Wednesday, he had no idea that he was going to order the intelligence community to look at COVID-19. But now it's politically impossible for him not to do so.
So if they were to conclude, the federal government, that it was in fact created in a lab through these experiments, maybe an experiment gone wrong, got into a doctor or one of the scientists rather, and then he left the lab, and or she or whomever, and then it spread from there. What kind of consequences do you think China should face for that?
It should face the most severe consequences, because this is not the last pathogen that is going to come from China. We know they're working on diseases which will leave the Chinese immune and sicken everybody else, which means that this will be a civilization killer. We cannot allow Xi Jinping to think that he can spread the next disease. And Jimmy, regardless of how SARS-CoV-2, this pathogen, arose, whether it's natural or whether it was man-made, we do know one thing, and that after this got out and crippled Chinese society, Xi Jinping took steps that he knew or had to know would lead to the spread of the disease beyond China. He lied about contagiousness, and then he pressured other countries to not impose travel restrictions and quarantines on arrivals from China while he was locking down his own country. You put those two things together, it was clear he wanted this to spread beyond China. There needs to be the most severe consequences on that.
We're talking with the author of The Great U.S.-China Tech War, Gordon G. Chang, here on Jimmy at the Crossroads, in person at the leadership program of the Rockies Retreat in Colorado Springs. And Gordon, as we were talking about Hong Kong earlier, I was also thinking about Taiwan and the expansionist efforts as well of China, as you were alluding to before, in, say, places like Africa and other parts of the globe. Talk to me a little bit about Taiwan and the nature of the relationship between also the United States and Taiwan, in terms of saying, I mean, President Trump and Mike Pompeo, just on the way out the door, had a very strong statement of support for Taiwan, but there and the expansionist efforts of China.
Right now, China's pressuring Taiwan militarily. We had, for a period of several months, these almost daily incursions into Taiwan's air defense identification zone by Chinese aircraft. Chinese aircraft have been flying on Taiwan's side of the median line, which goes right down the Taiwan Strait. For decades, there was this agreement: China stays to the west of the line, Taiwan stays to the east. Well, the Chinese have been flying to the east of the line. And then there have been these big naval exercises by China circumnavigating the island, extremely provocative and belligerent. The Biden administration, to its credit, has stepped up the U.S. Navy patrols in the area. There have been these transits of the Taiwan Strait, but this looks incredibly dangerous right now.
So what if you were in the room with President Biden and able to advise him on Chinese policy as far as their expansionist efforts and in terms of the COVID-19 spread, what would you tell him he should do?
I tell him the first thing he should do is he should declare in public that the United States will defend Taiwan. And we should say to Taipei that if they want a mutual defense treaty, we will sign one. It just seems to me that Taiwan is critical to the defense of the U.S. Since the end of the 19th century. That's where we've drawn our western defense perimeter, is off the coast of East Asia. Taiwan sits in the middle of that critical line where the South China Sea and East China Sea meet. But there's something even more important, Jimmy, and that is that in these days of China attacking democracy, we cannot allow the Chinese to absorb any democracy, especially one as important as Taiwan. So defending Taiwan is really defending America.
Now, how about international organizations like the WHO? We can recall what happened last year in the early days of COVID. They were helping China to keep the reality of how this would spread, the infectious nature of it, and so forth. But then also, remember that, the Hong Kong media outlet at the time that was shut down from an interview where they cut it off when asked a difficult question. And then the WHO has people who are supposedly looking into the origin of this virus, and they're like, no way was it created in the lab.
Do we have a few hours? I mean, the WHO actually helped China spread the disease. Senior doctors at the organization knew that SARS-CoV-2, the pathogen, was highly contagious. But the leadership of the WHO issued their January 9, 2020 statement, January 14 tweet, propagating China's narrative that it was not contagious, when the senior doctors at the organization knew that it was. That lulled public health officials into not taking precautions they otherwise would have. So WHO helped China spread this disease beyond China's borders.
So in terms of the Fauci emails, which are related to this because of the origination. I mean, he was getting emails from scientists, credible scientists, saying, it really seems like something's fishy here, but he kept downplaying it. And now he's like, no, I just thought that it was highly likely that it was a natural occurrence, and I wasn't really dismissing it. What do you make of that?
Fauci has a lot to hide. I mean, in fiscal 2014, his National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases actually authorized a grant to the EcoHealth Alliance, a New York NGO, for the purpose that EcoHealth would send the money to the Wuhan Institute for bat coronavirus research. And we know that the Wuhan Institute used it for gain-of-function research because the papers that were published from that research are gain-of-function techniques. So although Fauci may not have wanted the Chinese to do this, he knew that he should have known that they used it for gain-of-function, which is basically China's biological weapons program, which means Fauci had an obligation to talk about this, and he didn't.
2012, Fauci was talking about it might be worth the risk of a pandemic to do gain-of-function research.
Yes, and that just shows you that he actually believes this. Now, this research is so dangerous that the Obama administration prohibited in the U.S. Well, we shouldn't outsource it to another country. And so this was an action without a justification.
Final question, and then I have a little treat for you here on site together, Gordon G. Chang. Where do you think we go from here based on the trajectory of the Biden policy so far and now whether it's with Wuhan lab and now the greater interest in that, the credibility, or when we're talking about what's happening in Hong Kong and the fact that the liberties of the people of Hong Kong are being absolutely subjugated onto their expansion? Anywhere you want to go with that?
I think that we're going to see a severing of relations between China and the U.S. Not that Biden wants it, of course he doesn't want it, but the American people are going to drive it because we're going to learn more and more that China acted maliciously, and its actions resulted in the deaths of now hundreds of thousands of Americans.
We've had such a difficult conversation. I want to turn to something a little bit more fun because I never leave home without my harmonicas, at the very least my case of 7 harmonicas, and I got them here. See, they're each a different key, and I hope that it's not too much going on around here because I figured I ought to play a little bit on location for you, Gordon. Oh, right, this one needs to be replaced.
You do that,
there we go. Oh.
I did not bring my Jimmy at the Crossroads mug.
Me neither. Well, cheers nonetheless. Yes. I was in such a hurry today that I forgot. I was going to bring 2 and then let you use the other one, and it could have been a stand. And folks, he has a Jimmy at the Crossroads mug and showed it on our last episode when he was on. So absolutely, I got a D harmonica meeting playing in the key of A. I'm going to give a little treat here for Gordon G. Chang at the Leadership Program of the Rockies Retreat. Gordon G. Chang, just for you, my friend.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Such a treat to see you in person here at the retreat.
Oh,
I'm so glad you were invited.
Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll keep following all of your stuff, and we will be sure to talk again very soon, I'm sure.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Thank you.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, back live on the set, he can show you the left and the right. It's Jimmy Sengenberger, also known as Sang Style. Here he is, folks.
Thank you, Nathan Matoush. Working the Matoush magic as always here on Jimmy at the Crossroads. Well, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Gordon Chang. There was a lot of fun at the end. I really had a great time talking with Gloria Alvarez again as well. It was just absolutely fantastic to discuss how, and this is universal, how we can reach people on the issues of the day, connect with them and persuade them, and make sure that we are hearing one another and having meaningful discourse on politics and issues and meaningfully trying to win them over. Because, my friends, it's not just about winning the argument, it is about winning people over. That was great with Gloria Alvarez, and such stark discussion with Gordon G. Chang on what's happening in China, especially vis-a-vis Hong Kong. Last weekend, they didn't have the candlelight vigil for the Tiananmen Square massacre in Hong Kong, as they always had. And that's a travesty. That's a travesty. That is a loss. That is just plain wrong. And I think Gordon really put that into perspective. And then also playing harmonica with Gordon G. Chang right there. That was a lot of fun, a fun way to wrap everything up. Well, that is it for us today here on Jimmy at the Crossroads. We're working on a special live stream in the next day or two that you do not want to miss about what's been going on here in Denver, Colorado. But for now, I want to thank Gloria Alvarez and Gordon G. Chang, my friends at the Leadership Program of the Rockies, where I am a 2012 program graduate. Nathan Matouche, producer extraordinaire. Corby Wise, by the way, for helping with the video recording down at the Broadmoor at the LPR retreat, and to you for watching, subscribing, and sharing all of our content. I do appreciate it. We'll see you next time. In the meantime, may God bless America.
Politics, great for generations. Oh, what a mix. I got Jimmy at the crossroads, making sense out of nonsense. Yeah.